guests and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Welcome to the Ask the Experts show with local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Enjoy being educated in such topics as personal injury law, community association law, family law, bankruptcy law, along with health show topics like pain management, men's health, and dental implants. Now, sit back and enjoy today's Ask the Experts with host Steve-O.
And happy Monday to everyone driving home from the beginning of the work week. Tonight, I am joined by Josh Wishler. He is our expert in property insurance and property damage claims. And we are pleased to have him because tonight he's going to educate us on what we should do to protect ourselves against policies that may not be in our best interests. So, Josh, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
It's good to be here and see you. So let me ask you, like you said recently, we were talking, and you said that you noticed there was a clause in a recent policy or case that you heard that affected our snowbirds, which I think is pretty relevant because a lot of our listeners are older. So what was that case about?
So the case was Arguelles versus Citizens, and it took place in Miami. Basically what happened was somebody came and they bought a condo, and they lived here for about 10 months. After 10 months, they got a job offer in New York. So they moved to New York, and they rented out their condo. Time went by, and they had a pipe burst in their kitchen, and it flooded the entire kitchen. Made a claim with their insurance company. The insurance company ended up denying the claim because they said that this condo owner did not reside in the condo.
So their primary residence wasn't designated as Florida.
Right. So the courts went through, and this was not one of our cases. This was something that was in the system. So they went through, how is residence premises defined in the policy, and what does it actually mean to reside somewhere? And the courts came out and they said to reside is to basically be permanently living somewhere or on a consistent basis. So they found that since he no longer resided there, that he gave up his coverage, which is, it has so many ramifications for snowbirds.
Which is insane. Why even get the policy?
It's a crazy decision. And not only that, but the attorneys for the condo owner basically argued and said, well, you've been accepting our premiums. We've been paying you for 2 years.
Right.
And they tried to make that argument that you waived that argument or give us back the money.
And is their bill to in their New York address?
Yeah, exactly.
Or their other address,
right.
So they know they've got two residences.
Right. And the court came down in favor of the insurance company. So this has massive ramifications for snowbirds and potential coverage issues for them, that they need to be reviewing their policy and speaking with their agents and brokers. Because if you don't define specifically and say, I'm only planning on living here a month or two or maybe a few weekends, your policy may not cover anything.
Yeah. So you've had a lot of experience in this. How many years have you been doing property claims?
For property and casualty, doing about 6 years.
So you have to have seen a lot of situations like this that over the time that you probably have a running tally of avoid this, avoid this, avoid this. What are some other things that you've seen?
There's a whole long list of things. An issue that recently happened with a client, they initially retained a public adjuster. They had a pipe burst, over $20,000 in damages. The insurance company wasn't giving them any money. They came to us. We filed a lawsuit. We litigated. We ended up getting them to reverse their coverage decision to say that, okay, they made initially a bad decision, that it was covered. There was a legitimate claim. But what was the problem? The insured...
They went with the wrong insurance carrier?
Yes. The insured only had $2,500 in coverage.
Which they probably could have just taken out of their savings and maybe covered.
Exactly.
If that's all.
I mean, might as well be self-insured at that point. So it's so important to review your policy. If you think that you're going to have a pipe that breaks or water damage, make sure that you don't have a cap on it, because $2,500 is not worth anything. The insurance company ended up admitting, yes, you have over $20,000, but the policy that you signed up for only covers you up to $2,500. It's so important and crucial. Review your policy.
Well, let's face it, the reality is most people don't look at their policies until there's an uh-oh moment, and it's like, oh, let me go pull it out and figure out what I got coverage for. Or they make the call and then they get the bad news and then they're trying to understand these documents that really take a lawyer to understand sometimes, right?
Yeah, so like I said last time on the show, or it was maybe a while ago, if you have any questions, we do a free review for your policies.
That's
So
good.
I know I've heard criticism from some people that they try to get a hold of their agents or their brokers and they don't have time for them. We do a free review of your policy so we can highlight potential gaps that you have. Because the worst thing is to have something terrible that happens to your property and then find out after the fact you don't have coverage for it.
And do you recommend like gap coverage policies? Like if there is a gap in their coverage, do you have recommendations for who they should go to and how they should handle it?
Yeah, definitely. And there are a lot of different opportunities or different types of coverage. Speaking of which, you might have a situation if you're a snowbird that a regular HO3 policy is not going to be suitable. So
An
you might,
HO3 policy. Why don't you explain what that
so
is?
HO3 policy is what they would consider a full coverage policy for a homeowner resident. Okay.
Okay.
So because you have different types of policies, you have some policies that are only named peril policies, which means it's only going to cover you for a hurricane or a fire.
Okay.
It's not going to cover pipe breaks, vandalism, theft. So an HO3 is the most comprehensive full coverage, but don't let that fool you also, because just because it says full coverage doesn't really mean it's full.
Right.
They put the
It could be
insurance-
$2,500.
Exactly. And there's so many riders and endorsements that they hide in the back where the agent or broker, oh, just sign here, and you don't realize what it's including or not including.
So they're signing one document, but they have to cross-reference with the riders and other attachments.
Right. And most people,
We don't read them.
yeah.
The reality is you look for that. The average person like myself, we don't read that.
Right.
We want it summarized in a neat little package.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I always recommend to my clients, be proactive instead of reactive, not just in this, but I mean, every aspect in your life, right?
Right.
So if there's something that you know that you want to be covered for, then be explicit with your agent or your broker and get it in writing. Because if you put it in writing and you say, I want a policy that's going to have, no cap on a pipe break, and then you end up getting a policy that has a $2,500 cap on it, well, at least you can show, hey, I put somebody on notice, this is what I wanted. Unfortunately, most
You mean like email them that?
Exactly.
That email what your specifications were?
have a paper trail, because a phone call is not going to do it.
I mean, aren't all of these policies written to be a certain package that's kind of out to get you? I hate to say it that way, but they sell it with XYZ components, and they're all just kind of cookie cutter versions of, the house always wins.
You could say that, yeah. But still, that's the type of policy they're going to try to sell you. So you really have to speak up for yourself, because exactly like you said, if you just say, I want a policy to cover my home, they will present you with a cookie cutter policy that's basically going to have very limited coverage.
But what I'm hearing from you is you can customize,
Yes, you can customize.
which is good.
Yeah.
But I think I've heard you say too that you have to have sometimes you have to buy a fire policy and then a hurricane policy, and then it's all these a la carte things you have to add sometimes that you
Right.
can't, like you were just saying earlier, you can't get it all together. You have to look.
One example would be flood. So in HO3 policy, we'll just call it your typical homeowner's policy, does not include flood coverage.
Yeah.
So you would have to buy a separate policy, or if that carrier does write flood policies, you can get that as an add-on.
Yeah.
So that would be something additional that you would want to take a look at if you think or you've experienced flooding in
Yeah.
the past.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you know like this area in particular, but I think I used to hear that in East Boca you didn't have to have. They weren't mandating that you get the flood insurance, and now some policies are changing and saying they're mandating that you purchase that. Is that correct?
So here's the interesting thing. It goes by the floodplain. So I forget which government agency comes out, it might be every quarter, with flood maps.
Yeah.
It'll show you if you're in a zone. I've seen some clients where that zone shifts every year. So one year you might be in a flood zone, where you'd be required to get flood coverage. But then next year, something changes and you're just outside the zone.
So what dictates that and what changes? Like, who determines it and what changes? What determines that?
So that's the different. It's some
discussion
government
altogether.
yeah. But you want it. I would say forget the fact if you're in a zone or not. You know your house better than anybody else. If you experience flooding,
Unless you're just there for the first year.
right, exactly. But ask your neighbors. So when I say technically you might not be in a flood zone and you might not be required to purchase that.
Yeah.
But if you've noticed in the past, or you talk to your neighbors and say, yeah, when we have lots of rains or during certain seasons we flood, still go ahead and buy that extra coverage.
Which I think, being in Florida in general, it's probably safe to say flood insurance is probably an okay thing to get since we're
Yeah.
below sea level. But yeah, I just had heard that recently that they had some friends that live in East Spoke, and they said there was new mandates that they had to include the flood now. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, like I said, the maps shift. So
you
stay
never
on
know
top
what
of
you're gonna
that.
get.
But it's just the safe bet is get yourself an additional flood policy.
Give folks your web address and your phone number so they can reach out to you for that free consult.
Sure. So you can see online. We've got one number there. You can also call my cell, 561-299-4523. You can visit us at whistlerlawfirm.com. No T in Whistler. Just Google us and find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, all the other social media venues. And like I said, we're offering a free service to make sure that you have no gaps in your policy.
And we're going to be back after the short commercial break. We're going to talk more with Josh about how we can protect ourselves and get the right policy. That's good. So when we come back, let's discuss the...
At the Whistler firm, they represent homeowners and water mitigation companies against insurance companies who have denied or underpaid claims resulting from property damage. Attorney Whistler is a strong advocate for the policyholder in cases against property insurance companies and will aggressively fight for his clients to ensure a timely and favorable settlement on their behalf. They strive to provide a small firm experience with big firm results. The Whistler Law Firm will help you maximize your compensation. Attorney Whistler is aware of the complicated process of insurance claims and litigation, and to this end, his clients can expect to receive professional, individualized attention as he works tirelessly to provide them with a positive outcome on their claim. Insurance company's number one priority is to pay you the least amount possible. At the Whistler Law Firm, their main goal is to get you the most money for your claim. Contact the Whistler Law Firm today at 561-299-4523 and let them get you the most for your claim. That's 561-299-4523.
And we are back. Josh, we left off, we were going to talk about kind of explaining some of the confusing terminology that is in your world, the property damage world. Like, for example, ACV versus RCV. Can you explain to us what that is?
Sure, and people get confused on that all the time. It's actual cash value versus replacement cost value. So people think, oh, actual cash, yeah, that's what I want in my policy. Mm-hmm. No. You want the replacement cost value because the difference is the depreciation value.
Oh.
So let's say, I don't know, let's take this table or the microphones,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now what would it cost me if I had to replace a new microphone today? Let's say it's going to cost me $200.
Okay.
That would be replacement cost value if you have to buy it today. But if you have actual cash value as a coverage in your policy, then that means they take into consideration, well, how many years ago did you buy that microphone?
Yeah.
Right? And, it's got some bruises and dents to it. So we're going to take, some value off of that. And
Before you know it, it's $10.
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. So, people get confused all the time and they'll try to sell you the ACV. Now, granted, the RCV replacement cost value costs a few more dollars, but at the end of the day, you don't want to have to try to fight and say, no, I bought this 5 years ago, not 8 years ago, and you don't want to be in that battle. It's much safer and easier. Look at your policy, tell your agent, I want replacement cost value. So if you do have to replace anything, you'll be able to get it at current market rate.
So are we talking just like a few dollars in difference on the policy cost, or is it a lot more to get the replacement?
So I mean, I don't issue policies,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure today's, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to. If you can afford it, I highly recommend you get it.
Particularly when you're talking about replacing something on a home,
Yeah.
where we're not talking $200, we're talking $20,000 sometimes. So it's worth the investment.
Correct. And also, that would apply to your personal contents
Yeah.
because, you have anything that's basically not bolted into your home is considered personal contents, whether it be clothes, shoes. And if you have actual cash value rating on that, the insurance companies are going to give you pennies on the dollar.
You're talking about for your clothes, shoes,
Yeah.
and jewelry?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not going to get a lot. What happens when you've gone round and round with your insurance company and you just don't know what else to do?
So you would call somebody like us, a law firm that represents policyholders and homeowners, business owners, and you have to stand up to the insurance companies. The insurance companies
Yeah.
have all the power. They're getting laws changed in their favor. They're getting a lot of judges to rule cases in their favor. So you need to be very aggressive and fighting the insurance companies to make sure they do what they're supposed to do the right thing. And in Florida, we've got a great law, which they're actually trying to change now, that basically says if you have to sue your own insurance company for denying or underpaying you, the insurance company will be on the hook to pay your attorney's fees.
But what if it's the reverse? What if they find that your claim isn't valid? Do you pay their fees?
It's possible if they file something called a 57105. That rarely happens, as long as it's a legitimate, valid claim.
Yeah.
But the way it's currently set up in Florida is, from what I recall, is the only state
Yeah.
in the nation that has that special attorney's fee statute in the favor of the homeowner.
Oh, that's handy.
Very handy. So that's what makes the insurance companies accountable, because we will file a lawsuit or file a bad faith action, a civil remedy notice, and put the state on notice that this insurance company is not acting in good faith towards our client. Now, why it's beneficial in Florida, people can say, "Oh, I got to hire an attorney, right? I got to pay a retainer." That's not happening. That you don't have to put down a retainer. The law is set up currently that the insurance company will pay for your attorney's fees.
If they're proven to be in the wrong.
Right. And then it's just like a regular contingency fee. If for whatever reason we don't win the case, there's no costs or payments that you have to make towards us.
So basically, you only get paid if they win,
Correct.
which is great.
Yes.
So why not take the risk?
Exactly. People are afraid of their insurance companies. Don't you want the fact that that you've got an aggressive attorney in your corner? I always say the jab, jab, punch. That's my motto. Jab,
Yeah.
jab, punch. You need to put the insurance companies on the ropes to do the right thing.
I don't know if people are so much afraid of their insurance company as they are just exhausted by their insurance company and they give up and throw in the towel too often. Particularly, I guess, if it's a lower cost fee that, okay, finally, I'll just pay this and deal with this. And I'm sure the bigger ticket items they're willing to fight for, like, someone can't probably afford a 20 grand, roof replacement or whatever it costs to replace the roof. So they're going to have to probably take legal means at that point if their insurance company is not cooperating. Is it hard to prove if that's the insurance company should be stepping up, or is it pretty black and white? You take your policy, here's the damage. What do you find?
I don't think it's too difficult when we handle it, because we know exactly how to issue spot what we need to be able to show the court, eventually show the jury why the insurance company did not act properly. A lot of times it comes down to technicalities where they'll try to, like you said, the fine print in the policy.
Yeah.
But again, we know the rules. If something is ambiguous in the policy, then the court has to read it in our favor. to the homeowner's favor.
Yeah.
Because it's the insurance company that's creating these convoluted policies, this
Yeah.
convoluted language, and they can't have, right, both sides.
They've got to choose a side.
Right. So, I mean, we always tell, to make the claim easier, we always tell the client, please make sure before it comes to us, document everything. If you have some type of damage, make sure you call the right people. If you have a plumbing leak or a roof leak,
Yeah.
call a roofer, call a plumber, mitigate your damages as best as you can.
And make sure you're picking a good plumber or a roofer that's
Yes.
documenting properly.
100%.
That's not doing, and that's licensed and bonded.
Right.
That's, yeah.
No, yeah, we see that a lot. People will think they're going with a licensed provider, but they're not. You want to get a receipt, because when the insurance company say, okay, well, how much did you pay your plumber? How much did you pay the roofer? And they say, oh, well, he just took my cash. I don't have a receipt.
Yeah.
That causes problems.
A lot of problems. Now, one thing I know about you, Josh, is you're a tough litigator. How often do you have to go in and actually litigate these cases? Is it 80% of the time, 90% of the time? What do you find?
So, unfortunately, we actually are in court a lot. I wish that the insurance companies would just do the right thing at the front end and pay our clients, and we wouldn't be in business if that happened.
Yeah.
But we actually are in court all the time, even on simple little things, just because it's so difficult to get the insurance company to admit things which are really undisputed.
Yeah.
And then it goes with they try to delay the claims, delay the litigation process.
Deny, deny, deny.
Yes, delay, deny, defend. So we're always in court. Again, we're in court being proactive to try to get the insurance company to issue the benefits to our clients as soon as possible.
Right.
And we tend to find that if you're not proactive and you're not in court all the time, then the insurance companies will just sit on their hands and wait till you give up,
Which is what they're hoping.
which is what they're hoping. And we see it especially with elderly people, right?
Oh, that makes sense, right? Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Either they're waiting until their medical condition worsens,
Yeah.
or until they just put
Or
their
they don't
hands
have
up.
a care provider, someone who's taking care of them to speak up for them,
Right.
or that they'll just give up, not get into the details of the policy.
So that's what we found, that we have to put immense pressure on the insurance company, and that our avenue is through the court system, through the litigation, to get them to respond and answer on a timely basis.
Now, we're not in storm season yet, but we've been pretty fortunate over the years. What are some things that people could be doing now to prepare for the big hurricane season? I mean, tornadoes. God, we don't really talk about the tornadoes, but what kind of policies do they have for that? What is that considered? Is it a separate tornado policy?
So that would be wind coverage. So
Okay.
any damage that you sustain by a wind event would be covered by.
For now.
Yeah, exactly.
I probably just gave them an idea.
Right.
Kidding.
So, I mean, one thing that I always recommend, I think it's just a great policy to have, is for your body, you get annual checkups, right? We always say, even if you don't, you acknowledge it's an important thing to get an annual checkup. You should do the same thing for your house,
Yeah.
more specifically for your roof. So I would say find a trusted, licensed roofer.
Yeah.
Have them come out every year during non-hurricane season to take a look. Maybe you need, a little patch here, but if he can give you a good clean bill of health and say you don't need your roof replaced, that is going to be your golden ticket when
For when-
hurricane season comes. You do sustain damage, and the insurance company's most common argument is, well, you've got an old roof. It's, there's wear
This
and
was-
tear. This is pre-existing. No, I've got this, report from my roofer. It probably costs, to have a roofer come out $200, but it's definitely, if you can afford it, it's definitely worth it, because it's gonna be like an added insurance protection in the future.
And so you're encouraging that to be done annually?
Yes.
And the
Just-
roof is the most expensive item on the home? Or I
it's-
guess typically? Is that?
It's it depends. Obviously, it depends on the house or what type of materials you have in the interior. But yeah, that typically is one of the highest items in the damage estimates. But also, that's where the damage usually emanates from, right? Whether there's uplift in the shingles or the tiles, and that's where the wind and the water comes through, and then it spreads. So that's one of the main causation issues. And like you said, it's one of the most expensive portions of a property.
Is there anything else you'd recommend that people do in preparation for these storms?
I would say definitely review. I mean, I can't say it enough. Review your policy.
Review.
Yeah.
So you don't have to get denied.
Yeah. Send an email to your broker. Tell them what you want. Make sure you have. Also check to see if you have coverage if you have to move out of your house. That's
Like
also,
if it covers hotels or something or temporary housing.
and make sure you have enough. But in terms of your house, check your windows. That's always a good thing. If you have any, cracks, and a lot of settling occurs in Florida, especially South Florida. So if you have any cracks in your exterior walls, you want to get those patched and sealed. That's important. But I would say that the roof is the most important in my book.
Give folks your phone number and your website again.
Sure. WhistlerLawFirm.com, no T in Whistler, and 561-299-4523. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, many ways you can contact us. And like I said, we'll be happy to do a free review of your policy.
Well, Josh, hopefully our listeners never have to use you, but it's good to know that they've got a dog in the fight should they need one.
Definitely.
And so, guys, we're going to come back with more Ask the Experts when we return.